Imagine this. You've come most of the way in your life. You've tasted the bitter and the sweet. You've stood up after falling down many times. You've given more than you've ever received. And now at the end, when every moment of peace is more precious than anything else, someone comes along, not an enemy, but someone you know, a friend, a child, a neighbor, and they get in your way. They don't take your achievements outright, but they demand them. They force things onto you that are no longer yours. Have you ever felt like that? Like you're the life preserver thrown into the ocean every time someone else starts to sink? Like you're shouldering a family, a relationship, a battle that you never started. How many times have you said, "Okay, just this once," and then it becomes your default obligation? How many times have you been torn between kindness and hurt, between wanting to help and feeling like you're being abused? And worse, you don't dare say no, for fear of being judged as selfish, because you don't want to hurt anyone. But do you know what hurts more? Every time you nod in agreement, you lose a part of yourself. Every time you ignore your feelings, your health, your personal desires, you are erasing your true self. This is not just a story of one person. This is the bitter truth of many people, especially when they enter the second half of their lives, when they should be resting, enjoying, living a carefree life. But instead, they are dragged into a spiral of responsibilities, of expectations, of unreasonable demands that others take for granted. Stop and ask yourself, is this the life I expect? I've done enough. I've given almost everything. So why do I still feel like I owe others? Why don't I have the right to live the way I want? We are not born to live someone else's life. We should not let the most valuable period of our lives be buried by guilt, by begging, or invisible pressure from those we love. Most of us don't realize we are being used until we are exhausted, until we feel like we have nothing left to give. But it's never too late to wake up. You have the right to rest. You have the right to refuse. You have the right to live a peaceful life, without anyone, without having to carry anyone's burden, and you don't need to apologize for that. In this video, we will talk about 5 things that no one is allowed to ask you to do. Things that if you continue to carry, you will lose yourself. This is the time to look back, to ask yourself, what is it that I really need to keep? And what is it that I need to let go of? Come with me, and who knows, at the end of this journey, you will find again what you may have forgotten for a long time, your own peace. There are burdens that we think are responsibilities, but are actually chains. They come in many forms: a gentle request, an emergency, just this once, or a cry for help from a loved one with tired eyes. And you, like so many times before, nod, because you're kind, because you don't want to disappoint anyone. But what you don't realize is that you're carrying something that doesn't belong to you. Stories like this don't usually start with anything too big. It's just a small request, an act of kindness. You think, I'll help this time. But the first time leads to a second, then a 10th. And before you know it, you're no longer the one helping. You're the one taking responsibility. Not because you should, but because others are used to you being available. Have you ever found yourself doing someone else's work for them without knowing why? You become the one who cleans up the mess, the one who solves the problems, the one who fills the void that they should be responsible for. You become the pillar that supports a house that is leaning, but that house is not yours. You do not live in it. You did not choose to build it, but you are the only one who keeps it from falling. The longer it lasts, the more it becomes a trap. Because when you carry it for too long, Others will automatically see it as your role. They are no longer grateful. They only expect. They do not see you sacrificing. They only see you should do so. And if one day you are tired, you refuse, they will not understand. They will say you have changed. You are heartless. You are no longer yourself. But the truth is, you are gradually coming back to yourself after losing yourself for too long because of others. Sacrifice is not always love. When love is forced, when kindness becomes an obligation, it is no longer a connection, it is a burden. And the worst part is you carry that burden with all your heart, thinking it is the right thing to do, while the other person simply takes it away. Think back. Have you ever stayed up all night worrying about someone without anyone asking if you were okay? Have you ever put your own dreams on hold because you had to help someone else fix their life? And have you ever felt exhausted but still gritted your teeth because you didn't want to hurt anyone? I'm not saying you should turn your back on your loved ones or stop helping, but you need to learn to distinguish between supporting someone and carrying the burden for them, between being there for them and living their life for them, between kindness and suffering. A string that is pulled too tight will break, and if you are that string, you can break at any time. No one has the right to turn you into a life raft when they don't want to learn how to swim. No one has the right to call love to tie you down to things that make you lose yourself. You are not being selfish when you say no to something that is not yours. You are just redrawing the boundaries of kindness. You are protecting yourself, and that is necessary. Maybe they will be disappointed. Maybe they will not understand. But you do not live to please everyone. You live to be at peace. And peace cannot exist in a heart that is always carrying responsibilities that do not belong to it. Let's face it, if someone loves you, they will not leave you to carry everything alone. If someone really cares, they will learn to stand up for themselves, because true love does not drag others down. It supports, not weighs down. It is time to put down your burdens. What does not belong to you, you do not need to hold on. What makes you tired, you have the right to give up. Give responsibility back to the person who should hold it, and keep for yourself the one thing more precious than anything else: peace of mind. Perhaps of all the things that make it difficult for you to say no, money is the most sensitive and conflicting, especially when the person asking to borrow is a relative, a child, a sibling, a friend who has helped you in the past. They call in an urgent tone or text in a desperate way. I just need to borrow it temporarily. Please help me this time. I promise to pay you back soon. And so you open your wallet, not because you have enough money, not because you don't need that money, but because you can't bear to. However, the harsh truth is very few times that money comes back. And if it does, it rarely comes with a proper thank you. More often than not, it's silence. It's phone calls that no one picks up. It's encounters where they try to avoid your eyes. The sad thing is that your kindness turns into an opportunity for others to rely on. And instead of feeling satisfied that you have helped someone, you feel empty, even hurt. You ask yourself, was I wrong to trust people? But deeper down, you are angry with yourself for not protecting what should have been protected, your own security. Money is not everything, but at a certain stage in life, it represents security. It is the accumulation of years of sweat and tears. It is a reserve for illness, for when risks strike without warning. And when you give it away, you are not just giving money. You are betting on your own security, just because of some vague promise. Your loved ones know that. They know you are a soft-hearted person. They know you have sacrificed for others. They know you will feel guilty if you refuse. And that is why they choose you as their financial support. But what they never ask is, are you okay? Are you capable of giving without hurting yourself? That's not trust. That's exploitation disguised as affection. That's exploitation based on a relationship, not true trust. And the worst part is, if you refuse, you'll be seen as heartless, as stingy, as changed. But if you agree, you risk losing both the money and the respect the other person has for you. You weren't born to be someone's spare wallet. You don't have to take risks for people who have never learned to take responsibility for their lives. Because every penny you give isn't money falling from the sky. It's time, health, a whole youth you've traded for. And if tomorrow you have an accident, how many of them are willing to lend you that same money? Kindness doesn't mean lending. Love doesn't mean sacrificing your own safety. And love doesn't mean you have to grit your teeth and suffer in silence. Remember, you don't have to apologize for choosing to protect yourself. Set clear boundaries. If it's not an emergency, if there's no transparency, you have the right to say no. And even if it is an emergency, you still have the right to ask, I'll help this time, but then what? Who's responsible? You can say something like this: I understand your situation, and I hope everything is okay, but right now I can't help financially. If you need advice or guidance, I'm here to listen. That's not an insensitive no, it's a conscious no. Don't let your compassion become a path for others to walk straight into your safety, then back out when they see no more benefit. You weren't born to rescue anyone, especially when that rescue comes at the cost of your own peace. Keep your money, but above all, keep your self-respect. Because the most valuable thing you have at this stage is not material things, but peace. And peace will never be achieved if you are constantly worried about a loan that will not be paid back, or a love that has been exchanged for exploitation. Money can be lost and earned again, but if you lose peace, no one can give it back to you. There is nothing that weighs more heavily on your heart than being dragged into a family conflict that you didn't start, but instead you are placed in the middle, as if you are the only one who can put out the fire, heal the cracks, repair the relationships that have rotted over the years. You may have experienced this one ordinary day. The phone rings. It is your son or daughter on the other end. A voice full of pleading, mixed with frustration. Mom, Dad, I can't take it anymore. Uncle is overreacting. Say something. And there you are, dragged into another argument between loved ones. But you know this is not your fight. At first, you think you are just helping, just listening, bridging the gap, healing the two sides. But gradually, you become the name they call when a conflict erupts. You are turned into an unwilling referee, a person standing between two battle lines where neither side really wants to listen to the other. They just want you to choose sides. And you know what is most painful? It is when you realize that no matter how hard you try, you cannot please both sides. You say something that makes one side happy, the other angry. You keep silent and are blamed for not standing up to resolve the issue. You speak the truth and are accused of being biased. No matter what you do, you are still the one who is wrong. Reconciliation, if it comes from a tired heart and an exhausted spirit, is not a noble act. It is a drain. And when you spend all your energy trying to save something that the people involved do not want to preserve, you are doing it in vain. Family is a place of refuge, but sometimes it is also the place where the deepest wounds are born. Disputes, even if they start from small things, can last forever and swallow up the peace of those who are not involved. And ironically, the one who is hurt the most is the only one who wishes for peace for everyone: you. It is especially painful when conflicts are no longer petty disagreements, but become battles for property, for rights, for the right to decide. The house you built with all your love suddenly becomes a commodity to be fought over. The children you raised and loved now no longer talk to each other, but talk about each other, fight against each other, and use you as a weapon to justify their attitudes. You sit there, in the middle of your life, feeling helpless. Years of sacrifice, years of trying to maintain peace. Now you become a witness to an irreparable breakdown. And the most painful thing is when you realize you have spent too much time and energy to preserve something that the people involved no longer cherish. You are not an arbitrator. You were not made to handle other people's conflicts, especially when those people don't really want to make peace. They just want you to side with them. Every time you get involved, you not only lose your peace, but you also become a victim of guilt that doesn't belong to you. The truth is, you can't fix what others don't want to fix. You can't calm the anger that people harbor as part of their identity. And you can't keep a family together if people no longer want to be kind to each other. You have the right to step back. You have the right to refuse to be in the middle. You have the right to say, "This isn't about me. I love you, but I'm not the one to resolve your conflicts." That's not abandonment. That's self-preservation from an emotional whirlwind that has no way out. Your family is still where you love. But to continue loving, you need to keep your integrity. You are not an arbitrator. You are not the mediator. You have lived long enough to know there are cracks that need to be healed by the people involved. And if they don't, you don't have to take the fall for them. Peace, sometimes, doesn't come from resolving conflict. It comes from walking away from it at the right time. And sometimes, choosing not to get involved is the most loving thing you can do for yourself. There is a kind of hurt that is not loud, does not make a big noise, but silently eats away at you every day. That is when someone, maybe your beloved child, a close relative, even someone you once trusted, starts asking you to change. Not so that you can live better, but so that you can become a version that they find more comfortable, more pleasing to the eye, less rustic in their eyes. "Dad, stop dressing like that. It looks outdated." "Mom, that music is old. Who listens to that anymore? Please stop telling the same old stories. People are different now." It may sound harmless, but each of those words, if accumulated for long enough, will sow in you a feeling. It seems like you are not fitting in. It seems like you are becoming an outcast, a person who is no longer welcomed, even in your own family, in the world of the people you love the most. But think about it. You have lived your whole life to become the person you are today. Every habit, every hobby, every story you often tell, all are the crystallization of years, of experiences, of things you have gone through and overcome. And now, just because others don't like it, you have to change everything. They don't say it directly, but they want you to erase yourself a little, so as not to upset them, so as not to make them have to explain to their friends, so that you no longer make them feel like they are living with an old-fashioned person. But in fact, what they are demanding is not a small change, but the abandonment of identity. It is asking you to stop being yourself, Why is it that a person who has sacrificed most of his life to take care of his family, of others, in the end, cannot live true to himself? Why is a person who has experienced, suffered, tried to preserve traditional values, the TWEC, now considered obstructing modernity? We live in a time when everything changes so fast, but that doesn't mean you have to follow everything. You don't have to become an updated version just to be recognized. You don't have to change the way you live, the way you speak, the way you express your feelings, just because the next generation feels embarrassed. And you certainly don't have to force yourself to fit into a mold that doesn't suit you. You have the right to say, "I like the way I am. I am comfortable with what I have. I don't need to change to please anyone." You have the right to protect your memories, your familiarity, because it's not just a preference, it's the core of who you are. Change is only meaningful when it comes from an internal need, not from external pressure. When you change because you want to, that's maturity. But when you change because others feel uncomfortable, that's erasing yourself. You don't have to prove anything. You have lived long enough to know who you are. And if someone truly loves you, they will never ask you to change the things that make you feel good, feel right, feel like yourself. If you like telling old stories, tell them. If you feel happy when listening to an old song, play it a little louder. If you want to wear your favorite shirt, don't ask anyone, "If I can." Because every single thing, no matter how small, is a part of you. And you don't need permission to be yourself. Don't let anyone take away your right to be true. Don't let the judgmental eyes of others make you doubt your own worth. You are not outdated. You are living proof of a generation that was brave, that stood firm, that loved unconditionally. Being different is not a mistake. Just because you are not like the next generation doesn't mean you are behind. It means you have a foundation. You have an identity. You have your own story that no one can deny. And if you have to choose, always choose to be true to yourself. Because the last thing you need to lose in this life is your true self. There is one thing that many middle-aged and older people often do not realize, or realize too late, is they are used to living according to the emotions of others, used to putting the needs, desires, and satisfaction of their loved ones first, forgetting that they themselves have emotions. They also know sadness, hurt, and fatigue. But then they bury it deep inside, just to keep the peace, so that no one is upset, so that they can be called thoughtful people. Have you ever heard your child say this? "Mom, don't do that anymore. It makes me feel uncomfortable." Or, "Dad, if you continue that, I will be very sad." Gentle words, seemingly just an emotional request, but in fact are emotional manipulation, a way to force you to prioritize their feelings instead of your own true feelings. And you, with all your love, stay silent. Take a step back. Be patient, thinking, well, as long as my child is happy, if they are happy, then I am fine. But that is when you lay the foundation for a life where you are just a supporting character, someone behind the scenes, never stepping into the light. Someone who always puts aside personal desires just to not bother others. Why is that? Because you were taught to sacrifice. Because you live your whole life for others, so you think that is right. But do you know that when you live completely for the feelings of others, you are letting yourself be forgotten? And if you continue, you will gradually become invisible. No one really understands what you need, because even you do not dare to ask yourself that anymore. They say, if you do that, we will feel hurt. But who is asking, if you have to stop doing things that make you happy, will you feel hurt? There is a sad truth that few people dare to say. Sometimes, loved ones use their emotions to control you. They make you believe that if you just change, give up, keep quiet, everything will be better. But in fact, that is how they make you ignore your inner voice. And the danger is, you start to believe that your feelings are not important. That the better you endure, the less you demand, the more mature, the more properly loving. No, love does not mean giving up on yourself. Caring is not sacrificing to the point of not knowing what you need. You are also a human being, a heart, a soul with emotions, and you do not need to apologize for that. If someone asks you to give up what makes you happy, just to make them feel better, then that is not love, that is control. If someone only cares about their feelings and ignores what you are suffering, then they do not truly understand you. You have the right to say, I understand your feelings, but I have feelings too. I wouldn't do that if it hurt me. You have the right to choose how you live, how you express yourself, what makes you feel at peace, without having to justify or ask for permission. From now on, don't put other people's feelings above your own, because if you don't honor your own feelings, no one else can do it for you. You can't live in someone else's shadow forever, just because you're afraid of upsetting them. Sometimes, the most you can do is step up, be honest, and say, I deserve to be heard too. You're not being selfish in choosing peace. You're not being heartless in protecting your true feelings. You're just learning to love again. But this time, love yourself first. There's not much left in life to keep postponing happiness, only to trade it for someone else's inability to manage their emotions. If they are hurt by you being yourself, that is something they need to learn to deal with, not you. Now is the time to write your own life the way you want it to be. A life that is no longer stereotyped, no longer silent, no longer a backdrop for someone else. Remember, your feelings matter too, and you don't have to sacrifice them for anyone, not even the person you love the most. Because if they really love you, they won't want you to live in silence. They will want you to be happy, completely and truly. We have been on a journey together, not a journey of complaining, but a journey of awareness, a courageous journey when you dare to look straight at your life. Dare to ask the questions that you have been avoiding for so long. Who am I living for? Am I truly at peace? What have I given up to keep peace with people who do not understand me? We have talked about burdens that do not belong to you, responsibilities that others have given you, without ever asking if you can bear them. We have mentioned money, where kindness is most easily exploited, where you can lose more than you give, lost trust, lost relationships, lost security. We have entered the most sensitive area, family conflicts, where you are forced into the position of referee, when all you want is to live in peace. We've called out the painful truth, when loved ones ask you to change, to make them feel better, even though you're being true to yourself. And finally, we've faced the feeling of being overlooked, when your feelings are put behind others, over and over again. All of this leads to one clear truth. You can't go on living like this, not because you don't have the strength, but because you don't have the reason. You've given too much. You've sacrificed too much. And if there's one thing you deserve more than anyone else in this world, it's to live fully, gently, peacefully. No more suffering. No more being the foil for other people's happiness. No more being the generous one, only to be broken inside. Life doesn't go back. Time waits for no one. And if you don't choose a different path today, a path that puts you first, who will? Don't wait until you're too weak to change. Don't wait until your kindness is drained, only to realize that no one is holding back that kindness for you. You can start right now. You don't need to change the world, just change the way you see yourself. Give yourself permission to say no when it protects your peace. Give yourself permission to choose silence, to withdraw, to set limits. And above all, give yourself permission to live right, without asking anyone's permission, because you don't owe anyone anything. You only owe yourself a worthy life. And worthy doesn't mean perfect. It means having enough freedom to breathe, enough lightness to laugh, enough leisure to sit by the window one afternoon, without being dragged down by responsibilities that aren't yours. If you see yourself in what you just heard, leave a comment. Write down one thing you will reject from today, one thing you will let go of, one boundary you will set. Write down the keyword, peace. If that is what you are looking for, because you deserve to be whole. And peace, after all, is not a reward for sacrifice. It is the right of a person who has gone through all the hard work, and now just needs to live for themselves. Thank you for being with me until the end. This is not just the end of a video. This is the beginning of a different life. A life where you are the center, the priority, the chosen one by you.